Alright, what's going on, guys? Boy TG, welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to break down or just do a tier ranking video, I should say, of teams that could be cup contenders and teams that won't miss the playoffs. So as you can see on my screen, I have divided it into cup contenders, playoff contenders, wild card teams, teams that have a solid good year but won't make the playoffs, and teams that will suck and for sure won't make the playoffs. And we got all of our 32 teams here. As you guys know, the Arizona Coyotes are now called Utah Hockey Club. So that's why that logo is there instead of the Coyotes logo. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with the Colorado Avalanche. So the Avalanche is still out Gabriel Landeskog. I don't know if he's going to come back this season. I know he's been out for a while because of a injury and that stuff, but Avalanche made the playoffs last season without Gabriel Landeskog, and then I think the year before that they made the playoffs, so they could still be a playoff contender. I know one of their playoffs, Yakov Trenin, I think he went to the Minnesota Wild, but nonetheless, I still consider the Avalanche a playoff contender team. Won't be a cup contender team, but they'll most likely for sure be a playoff contender team. Before I get started into like the other team stuff, I just want to I should have said this at the start of this video that I have been taking a break from hockey and I haven't been really keeping up with a lot of it, to be honest, because it's the NHL all season and there's not really that much going on. Like players are spending time with their families, probably doing some golfing and stuff, probably still doing a little bit of hockey every now and then, just like myself. But mostly they're just taking this off season to relax. But I can't wait for hockey season to start back once again. But since then, I have just been taking a break from hockey, and so just wanted to say that. I should have said that to start this videos, but I'm going to say it to you guys right now. In case you're wondering how come I haven't been posting a lot of hockey content of lately. Anyway, next team is my Chicago Blackhawks. So if you guys don't know already, I am a huge Blackhawks fan. I said on this channel a bunch of times, said on my podcast a bunch of times. Grew up watching the Blackhawks and stuff. I also went to some of the games. I even got to see Connor Bedard play in person. So yeah, huge Chicago Blackhawks fan. I hope one day the city of Chicago could at least win something for once, whether it's the Bulls winning the championship, Bears winning the Super Bowl, White Sox, Cubs winning the World Series, Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup. I just want the city of Chicago to win something. But anyway, you guys know where I'm going to put the Blackhawks. I'm going to put them right here, mostly because of the way that they just loaded in free agency. Like, they got Alex Martinez. They got Pat Maroon. They got it was somebody. They got Lauren Bouchard. They just got a lot of solid, good players in free agency. Tyler Bertuzzi as one of them. Let's see. And there's so many more to come. So I feel like Kyle Davidson just went all out for the Chicago Blackhawks. So he had a really good free agency with the team and stuff. So the Blackhawks, they won't make the playoffs, but they'll be better than they were last season. So last season, it was just like a young core Blackhawks team. Connor Bedard making his NHL debut, playing his first season in NHL. But I feel like this season they should do at least slightly better than they did last year, especially since the fact that Kyle Davidson has a lot of some veterans on the team to help Connor Bedard. I think Taylor Hall's going to come back to the team. I know he's been injured for quite a while, so he's going to come back to the team. So all that veteran forward depth surrounding Connor Bedard, I think that should help the Blackhawks do slightly better than they did last season. Anyway, we got the Columbus Blue Jackets up next. So I know Sean Monahan's going to be joining Columbus, reuniting with his old teammate from Calgary, Johnny Gaudreau. I can't wait to see what that duo does. And, of course, Adam Fantilli is still on the team, got drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I think Dean Everson, who used to coach the Minnesota Wild, is going to be coaching the Columbus Blue Jackets this season. So I don't want to say that they'll suck, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs. So I'm sorry. I'm just gonna have to put that right there. They probably won't make the playoffs. Um, I don't know if they have a good year or not, but I just put it right there. Sorry, if you're a Blue Jackets fan. Up next, St. Louis Blues. So the Blues, they missed out on the playoffs last season, and they didn't make the playoffs, I think, in 2023. So um, they'll probably have a good year. Like I said, I don't know who they added in free agency. Um, but I believe that they'll have a good year. I hate to say this, but they'll probably be better than the Blackhawks. And yeah, I really did hate saying that because I'm a Blackhawks fan. As a Blackhawks fan, I really do hate the Blues. But I will have to admit the Blues will probably be better than the Hawks. So they'll have a slightly good year, but they won't make the playoffs. Up next, we got the Boston Bruins. So I know the Boston Bruins, Linus Ullmark, he's gone to the Ottawa Senators. Jake DeBrusk is now on the Vancouver Canucks. I think Danton Heinen is now on the Canucks as well. The Bruins brought in Elias Lindholm and Nikita Sadorov right there. So I don't know how this goaltending duo is going to work because I love watching Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark on the same team. They still got some, forward depth. I know Bergeron's retired and stuff. They'll probably still make the playoffs. Like, I believe the Bruins will probably make the playoffs, but it might have to be either as a playoff contender or as a wild card contender. But for right now, I'm just going to say wild card team. They'll make the playoffs as a wild card team. They probably might be a playoff contender as well. But as for right now, I'm just going to say that they're a wild card team. But somewhere in the season, they might be a playoff contender. Like I said, I haven't been keeping up a little bit on hockey because it's the off season and I was taking a break from it. So just trying to, have it come back to my mind, if you will. Up next, we got the Montreal Canadiens. So, of course, they got a young team over there in Montreal. Got Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Uri Sokoski, who I think signed was it an 8-year contract deal? Not really sure. But he's going to be with the Canadiens for a while. And the Canadiens haven't made the playoffs since 2021, which was the year that they went to the Stanley Cup Final, and they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5 games. They probably won't make the playoffs again. But somewhere in the near future, probably another 2 decades or so, I don't know, just the estimate, we'll see the Montreal Canadiens be in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Up next, we got the Vancouver Canucks. So, like I mentioned already, the Bruins. Well, Jake DeBrusk is now on the team. Sadorov is now. Wait, did I say Sadorov? Jake DeBrusk is on the team now, and I think they got Danton Heinen on the team as well. I didn't think the Canucks would be a playoff team last year, but somehow, some way, they made it to the playoffs. I'm going to put them as a playoff contender. I believe they'll be back in the playoffs for another season. So I'm going to put them as a playoff contender right there. Up next, we got Washington Capitals. So the Capitals, they made the playoffs last season. I know it was a tough race with the Capitals, Flyers, Red Wings making it into the playoffs last year, but the Capitals got that last spot right there. So they got eliminated. Well, actually, they got swept in the playoffs last season by the New York Rangers. So I don't think I'll see them in the playoffs again this year. They'll probably have a solid good year, but they won't make the playoffs. Up next, we got the New Jersey Devils. So, of course, Sheldon Keefe's their new head coach now. They got Jeremy Colleton as their assistant head coach. Of course, the Devils' last playoff appearance was in 2023. They missed out on the playoffs last season. I thought they were going to make the playoffs last season, to be honest, but they didn't. They got a solid, good team too. I don't know what should I say. Either they'll be a wild card team this year, or they won't make the playoffs or so. I'm going to put them. I don't know. They could Not really sure. I'm going to say that they'll have a solid, good year, but they won't make the playoffs. So up next, we got Anaheim Ducks. So of course, the Ducks are another young team out there with Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, and I think that guy that was drafted third overall. Was it third overall in the draft this year? I think it was third overall in the draft. Um, who didn't know who was going to be drafted. So yeah, that's another great young team right there. But I don't think they'll see them. I don't think we'll see them in the playoffs. But if I did do a tier ranking video on how the jerseys will look, I'll probably put it at the top because I do love the Anaheim Ducks jerseys. Like I said, Mighty Ducks was my favorite movie growing up as a kid. That was my number one favorite hockey movie, but now it will probably have to be Youngblood as my number one favorite hockey movie. But as a kid, it was Mighty Ducks. Like, if you're a hockey fan and if you did not grow up watching Mighty Ducks as a kid, and like, come on, like every kid watched Mighty Ducks. It was a funny kids movie. Um, but if you're like a teenager or kind of like adult, you'll probably say like Youngblood or Slapshot. Goon was a good movie. Well, actually, no, I didn't really like Goon. It was okay. I mean, it was okay, but I didn't really like it. But I did like Youngblood and Slapshot and Miracle though, and of course Mighty Ducks. Favorite movie as a kid. Up next, we got the Calgary Flames. So of course, like I mentioned, Sean Monahan going to Columbus, reunite with his former teammate in Calgary, Johnny Gaudreau. But I don't think he was on the Flames at that time. I think he was still on the Canadians. But anyway, Calgary Flames. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. When I get done with this, I want you guys to tell me what you think. Like I said, haven't really been paying attention to a whole lot of hockey of late because it's the off season, but I can't wait for hockey season to start back. Up next, we got the Philadelphia Flyers. So the Flyers were this close to making to the playoffs last season, but they just missed out on the playoffs. I thought they were going to be a playoff contender for real because I think at the start of the season or like midway through the season, they were doing okay and stuff. I think they were in the playoff spot at that time. But I don't know. They'll probably do solid. They'll have a solid, good year, but I don't think I'll see them in the playoffs. Up next, we got the Vegas Golden Knights. So, of course, the Golden Knights, really great team. But they did get bounced in Game 7 by the Dallas Stars last season in the playoffs. But they'll probably be a playoff contender again this season. I know they lost a few players like Jonathan Marchessault. So he went over to the Nashville Predators. Alex Martinez went over to the Chicago Blackhawks. And let's see, it was a few other players. I think Bourgeois, he went over to the Blackhawks as well. And I think that's all I can think of. So, yeah. But there's probably still be a playoff contender team, though. We'll just have to see. Up next, we got the Carolina Hurricanes. So the Hurricanes, of course, they lost Brady Shea. He's gone over to the Nashville Predators. But nonetheless, and they lost Teuvo Teravainen. He came back to the Chicago Blackhawks. But we could possibly still see Carolina as a playoff contender right there. So I'm going to put them right there as a playoff contender. Up next, we got the New York Islanders. So, of course, the All-Star Game in 2026 will be held at the Islanders Stadium. The Islanders, I think they finished third place in the division last year, or they were a wild card team. It might be a wild card team this year. But not really so sure what will happen. Up next, we got the Winnipeg Jets. So, of course, they, I think they finished either second or third in the division last year. I know Dallas finished first in their division last year, so I know that. I think the Jets finished either second or third in the division, but there could be another playoff contender team, so I'm going to put them right there as a playoff contender. Up next, we got the LA Kings. So, of course, they keep getting bounced by the Edmonton Oilers in the first round. I think this was third straight season that they got eliminated by the Oilers in the first round Stanley Cup playoffs. I do like the jerseys, though. The jerseys and the logo is absolutely fire, bringing back that, 90s vibes, those 1990s vibes when Wayne Gretzky, Luke Robitaille was on the team, bring back those vibes. So if this was a ranking video on the jerseys, I'd probably put them at the top. But I'll probably have to say that they could. I don't know. I don't know what to say for this. Either I want to say that they're a playoff contender, or they'll have a solid good year, but miss out on the playoffs. Man, I don't even know what to say. I don't want to be looking stupid either. Let's see. This is a tough one. I think they'll have a solid good year, but they'll miss out on the playoffs. I think I'm just going to say it at that. Up next, we got the Seattle Kraken. So, of course, they missed out on the playoffs last season, so they didn't make it in. But let's see. Yeah, I don't think they probably won't suck, but they'll probably just miss out on the playoffs again. Up next, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, of course, Steven Stamkos went over to Nashville. He's no longer on the Tampa Bay Lightning anymore. That did shock a lot of Tampa Bay Lightning fans. Some of you probably weren't shocked because you already knew that his time in Tampa was going to come to an end. Yeah. But most of us were shocked that he signed with the Nashville Predators. Can't wait to see what he does in Smashville. The Lightning did get Jay Gensel for the Carolina Hurricanes. I think this was in a trade that they got Jay Gensel from. But I'm going to say the Lightning are a wild card team. I mean, of course, they're still, a great team to watch. They still got Nikita Kucherov. They still got Brady Point. Ryan McDonough's now back on the team. So he was on the team before he was traded to the Predators. But the Predators, they did trade him back to Tampa. So he's back on the Tampa Bay Lightning now. Let's see. They still got Andre Vasilevsky. So the Lightning, despite losing their captain, Steven Stamkos, they're still a great team to watch. So, but they might finish as a wild card team. Up next, we got the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you guys know I had to put the Leafs as a playoff contender, even though of their first round struggles. But they did get out of the first round in 2023 where they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6 games. But they'll probably still be a playoff contender. I know they fired their head coach, Sheldon Keefe. And Craig Berube is going to be taking over as head coach. So we could probably still see the Leafs as a playoff contender team. Up next, we got the Edmonton Oilers. Now, despite coming up short in the Stanley Cup final last season, I still consider them a cup contender team. They had an underdog run last year. I mean, they started off bad last year. They fired Jay Woodcroft, brought in Chris Comblok. Then midway through the season, they went on a 16-game win streak, I'm assuming. Was it a 16-game win streak? I think it was. And then they finished second place in their division. And we didn't even think they were going to be a playoff team last year, but they were. They went all the way to the Cup final, and they lost. But despite losing, I still see them as a cup contender team. So I really think the Oilers will be back in the Stanley Cup final, possibly. And Connor McDavid will get his first Stanley Cup. I've been saying it for a long time. I did talk to a few of my friends, and I was telling them that Connor McDavid, he deserves a Stanley Cup. I've been saying this for a long time before I mentioned it to anybody else. He actually deserves a Stanley Cup. One of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league, and he still doesn't have a Stanley Cup. I believe he's going to get it soon before he retires. So I believe the Oilers will be back. They will be a cup contender team, and they could possibly break that Canadian Stanley Cup drought. Up next, we got the Florida Panthers. So some of you might be saying Panthers are most likely to repeat as Stanley Cup champions after losing in the Stanley Cup final in 2023 to the Vegas Golden Knights. The Panthers bounced back. They win their first Stanley Cup in franchise history. So they could be back as a cup contender team. So I'm just going to put it right there. They'll be a cup contender team. They'll probably repeat as Stanley Cup champions. Some of you guys might disagree with that, but we'll just have to see come the 2024-2025 NHL season. Up next, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, of course, the Penguins, they missed out on the playoffs. I don't think that they'll make the playoffs. They'll probably might have a solid good year. I won't say that they'll suck, but they'll probably have an all right year, but they won't make out in the playoffs. But they won't make the playoffs. Up next, we got the Nashville Predators. So, of course, the Predators, they absolutely got stacked in free agency. They added Steven Stamkos. They added Jonathan Marchessault. They added Brady Shea. And they added Scott Wedgwood from the Dallas Stars. So they absolutely went all out in free agency. I'm going to say that they what am I trying to say? I'm going to say that they'll be a wild card team, possibly a wild card team. And I'm just now realizing this, that I have 3 Eastern Conference teams for a wild card team right there. I was going to put the Bruins as a playoff contender. They might be a playoff contender. Not really sure. I'll just put it right there. I just now realized that I have 3 Eastern Conference teams as wild card teams, but that was because I thought maybe like 2 of those teams might be wild card teams. But like I said, I have been paying attention to a lot of hockey because I've been taking a break from it because it's the off season. So just bear with me, guys. So. Up next, we got the New York Rangers. So playoff team last season, went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, got eliminated by the Florida Panthers. I'm not choosing them to win the Stanley Cup next season because last 2 seasons, I chose the Rangers to win the Stanley Cup. First time, they got bounced out the first round by New Jersey Devils. That was in 2023. And then, of course, last season, went all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, but got eliminated by the Florida Panthers. So definitely not choosing them to win the Stanley Cup, but they will be a playoff contender team. That's what I would say. They'll be a playoff contender team. Up next, we got the Detroit Red Wings. Now, as a Blackhawks fan, I really wish that I could have seen Detroit in the Stanley Cup playoffs, mostly because Alistair Brinkett and Patrick Kane's on the team, and I believe they absolutely deserved to be in the playoffs last season if it weren't for the Washington Capitals winning that game against the Philadelphia Flyers. But they probably won't finish as a wild card team, but I'm hoping that they will finish as a wild card team. And like I said, I know I got 3 Eastern Conference teams as wild card teams right there. So I realized that probably two out of those 3 teams might be like wild card teams. So up next, we got the Buffalo Sabres, another young team with Owen Power, Rasmus Dahlin. Let's see, Zach Benson, and a few other players on that Sabres team. Now, you guys know I had to put the Sabres right here. I mean, I was hoping that they'll make the playoffs last season, but they didn't, and so their longest playoff drought continues. I don't know how long. I don't know when was the last time the Sabres made the playoffs. I'm going to guess 2007 was the last time that they made the playoffs. I'm not 100% sure, but we know that they had the longest playoff drought in the league. So I don't see the Sabres making the playoffs again this year. Up next, we got the Ottawa Senators. So, of course, Linus Ullmark is now on the team. He was on the Boston Bruins. Let's see. Brady Tkachuk is their team captain. And they got Tim Stützle on the team as well. But I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't think the Senators will possibly have a good year. I think they'll just miss out on the playoffs, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I think Jonas Korpisalo is still on the team. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe he's still on the team. Next, we got the San Jose Sharks. Of course, Macklin Celebrini is on the team now. And, of course, they're another great young team. Well, I wouldn't say great because they just missed out on the playoffs last season. They had the worst record last season, so I regret saying that. But they do have a young team, though. but I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Like, I'm just gonna say it there. So they probably won't even have a slightly good year. It'll be just like the Blackhawks and Connor Bedard's first year. I mean, they'll suck and they'll miss out on the playoffs. Up next, we got the Dallas Stars. So, of course, the Stars had all the depth last year. Of course, they had Joe Pavelski. Speaking of which, Joe Pavelski did retire, so he's no longer going to be playing in the NHL. Great career overall, though, for Joe Pavelski. Played for the Sharks and Stars. Um, but I'm going to still say the Dallas Stars will possibly be cup contenders. So up next, we got Utah Hockey Club, corny name for an NHL team. Feels a middle school or high school team name or possibly a college hockey team. It wouldn't be so corny, but it's corny. It's a corny name for an NHL team, and I don't like it. And I'm hoping that the NHL changes that name in like the next few years. I hate it that they're going to be sticking with Utah Hockey Club come their inaugural season. So, but I don't think we'll see them in the playoffs this year. So, just going to have it at that. And then last but not least, we got the Minnesota Wild. So the Wild, their last playoff appearance, correct me if I'm wrong, 2023. So I don't think they'll probably might have a solid good year, but they'll possibly miss out on the playoffs. So yeah. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this video. So let me know what you guys think right here. Some of you might disagree with what I have, but just bear with me. Like I said, been taking a break from hockey since there's not really that much going on or anything that I want to talk about. Also, let me know what kind of videos you want to see on this channel as well. And if you enjoyed this video, hit it with a like, hit it with a subscribe button. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. Going to try to get to 500 subscribers by the end of 2024. And yeah, I can't wait for this upcoming NHL season because like Billy missed hockey season and there's not really that much hockey going on. But come hockey season, I'll be doing and talking a lot about hockey like I always do, but only because it's the off season. There's not really that much going on. They're just playing old stuff that's already happened. Just been taking a break from it. But anyway, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit it with a like, and yeah. And I'll see you guys next time.